Well, hello, and welcome back to the Shallow Proclamation with myself, Thomas, and my pal,
Paul.
Paul Pal.
Hey, Paul Powell. Yes.
um, and welcome back. We're watching a new story of the Pertwee era, season 7. Paul, what have we got today?
Yeah, we're about to crack into the third story of the season, The Ambassadors of Death. So it's another seven-parter, as you know, all the stories in this season are, barring Spearhead from Space. Broadcast from the 21st of March to the 2nd of May 1970. It was directed by Michael Ferguson and written by David Whittaker. We've had some stories from David Whittaker before. I can't think off the top of my head which other ones he wrote. I have a feeling, I want to say he did Power of the Daleks, but I might be making that up.
Hmm.
But this is his final story he ever wrote, and actually, he's not hugely keen on it. A lot of it was actually rewritten by Malcolm Hulke, so
Oh.
uh, it's a bit of a mixed thing there. And yeah, actually, we were talking about this in the last in the Silurians about stuff being color or recolorized and color being lost. So the story itself was originally recorded on 625 line PAL videotape, but up till 2011, all the episodes, barring one, in that format had been lost. So the only available ones were 60mm black and white telerecordings.
Hmm.
And then there were some existing color videotapes of episodes 2 to 7 were from a non-broadcast standard 525 line NTSC
Hmm.
off-air recording from Canada, from the 80s. And then apparently, even within that episodes, some of the episodes had faults with the color signal. So it resulted in like a rainbow pattern being superimposed across it. And then, yeah, basically people have worked on it over time to restore it. So episode 5 was successfully restored to color.
Yeah.
Um, Other ones they struggled. They struggled quite a bit, but eventually, I think it says here they used chroma dot colorization to eventually recolorize the story. That was done by the restoration team. So it'd be interesting to see what it looks like quality wise. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what even version we're going to have on here because iPlayer often has um, versions of varying quality. They're not always the ones you see on BritBox, which sometimes are better. But
Hmm.
it'll be that explains. You get a little sense there of some of the issues they've had with this season and this era in terms of having the actual recordings and getting them recolorized and why that is. We saw in the Silurians that some of that had affected the color of it and the look of it. So
Hmm.
I'll be interested to see what this looks like. I'll be honest. I've not. I think I've only seen this story once in full, so I'm not hugely familiar with it, and I'm quite looking forward to it from that point of view.
Sure. Yeah, let's check it out.
Degree. How are you reading?
I'm reading okay. 1 degree. Now.
Distance computation, please.
It looks pretty crisp, this doesn't it? Actually,
Hmm.
Miles.
Yeah, looks good.
30 seconds to objective.
Confirm.
I like the beautiful blue
Going.
effect.
blue vegan sausage roll.
Have you seen that Boris Johnson clip where they ask him, "How do you get through all these late nights of campaigning?" And he's just like, "Well, I do succumb to the occasional flapjacks." Oh, cool.
So this is very
More theme.
unusual.
This is very unusual. Little cold open.
Yeah.
Both then seemed in perfect health. Then silence. The world assumed that disaster had overtaken the mission. But when all hope was gone, radio astronomers at Cambridge
This is
Probe 7 had blasted off and was
a good way of giving a bit of story, isn't it? The modern era does a bit of that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now here we go.
Whoa.
See what you make of this, Thomas.
Is this the TARDIS?
Not quite. Not quite.
I was going to say. I mean, it would be a cool TARDIS, but
I'm trying to reactivate the TARDIS's time vector generator.
has he taken the console out or something?
He has, yeah.
That's very unusual.
So the console has been removed from the TARDIS. I think at this point the
Wouldn't fit through the door, would it?
Well, exactly. And of course, here for the first time, you realise that this is. I mean, this is the original console.
Yeah.
Of course, in the Troughton and Hartnell era, we saw it in black and white. It looks white. It was painted this colour to look white on screen, but we see it's really a kind of green.
Yeah. That's cool they left it the same colour.
The actual TARDIS set has mostly been put into storage, given that they weren't going to be travelling anywhere because he's exiled to Earth. I'm thinking it got quite tatty and needed a lot of work, so
Right.
hence they've got the console out like this for the Doctor to work on to try and fix it.
I like that as an idea.
See that fringing on the left-hand side there? The you can see how the green screen hasn't quite taken there.
They
But you
give
know,
it a good shot. Yeah.
but given like when I worked with you, Thomas, we would do green screen stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
We may have done it before you worked with us. We would still get those issues today.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really hard to light it to get it to work perfectly.
Mars probe 7.
No doubt about it.
So the fact that they've done that so well on the budget they've got in 1970 is quite impressive, really.
Oh, for sure.
And I think I mentioned during the Silurians that I think they're one of the first TV shows to actually really do it.
Right.
Transmitters too
Huh.
weak to reach us.
Oh, this is cool.
That's really nice model work, isn't it?
Yeah. And they look really good. They really thought we'd get to the Mars sooner, didn't they?
Yeah. I really like that window in the background there.
Hmm. So it's stained
really-
glass.
Yeah, it's a really interesting choice, isn't it? Like, it's very sort of flamboyant compared to the rest of the room and stuff. It's just a intriguing design.
Well, they're sort of doing the weightlessness, aren't they?
Let's clamp away.
Yeah, they just slowed the footage slightly to...
And put him upside down. It's quite effective.
I can
Yeah, it does work.
What is it, Johnny?
No
What
need
you
to
hear?
go up in the vomit comic.
I think that
This guy at the front here, he's really funny. This is, every time he speaks, he's like, "Yes, Charlie.
opening hatch.
You're
Hello,
doing
Charlie."
really well, Charlie." Ow, Charlie! Do you remember
Yes.
that? Charlie bit my finger.
It's cold in space, Charlie. Ooh. That's quite scary.
Charlie, what's happened?
He's still just as calm.
Charlie.
Charlie. Charlie. Oh, that's almost as good as Packer, isn't it?
Charlie.
Charlie. Charlie, what's happened?
I can't remember who it is, but on one of the Doctor Who documentaries, one of the women on it says there's not many people who can pull off sort of a
There is a possibility that
purple velvet jacket and a cravat. She's like, basically, it's Jon Pertwee and Jimi Hendrix.
Wow. Yeah. Wonder if they ever did anything together. Oh, nice bit of paper blowing past.
Yeah. See, oh, look at this. I love a location that looks like that.
Yeah.
And now that guy there, he was. You won't recognise him because I don't think we saw him in the flesh. He was Van. Is he called Van Lutyens in Fury from the Deep?
Oh,
the
yeah,
sort of Dutch
yeah.
one. I think it's.
Van
I think
Lutyens.
it's him. Anyway, John Abineri. I think it's him. Might be wrong.
Nice.
Now, apparently, all the unit soldiers in this have slightly different uniforms from any other story. Apart from the Brigadier, who has his normal one, they're all supposed to have a slightly more futuristic-looking one.
Right. Slightly different
So
unit forms.
I think this is the unit theme tune.
Oh, cool. It's a bit medieval sounding almost, isn't it?
That's enough.
Ba-dum-ba-bum-ba-bum-ba-bum. It's pretty stark, isn't it?
Don't think that palette's going to give you much cover.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good collapse.
Well, that was nice. That was nicely done.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Oh. Maybe people in the comments can let us know. I wonder if this is all... there was a stunt team who did a lot of stuff during the Pertwee era called Havoc. I
Oh,
wonder
okay.
whether this is sort of showcasing them.
Right now!
That didn't quite work, did it?
That was a interesting scene. They tried hard, didn't they, to create a bit of action there. It was quite tricky. There was a number of shots where there was lots of close-ups of guns where you're not really getting any sense of the scale or where people are, and then people sort of just jumping over a crate out of cover. Not that you have much cover anyway. So bizarre. Look, there we go.
Oh yeah,
See the
those
line on the
lines.
screen.
That's really weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not sure if it really worked as well as it could have done, that scene, but
Yeah, I think once they kind of... There are a few parts that was like, oh, that's really frenetic and feels quite nicely done. But yeah, a lot of just close-up of guns, I guess, as you say.
and there was that moment where they'd been shooting each other for a while, and then suddenly they both decide at exactly the same time to all just come together into a kind of brawl. But it makes me think of like almost like a musical, like they're all going to come into the middle and starts like Unit the musical.
Yeah.
Space control to recovery 7.
See what he's got to say for himself this time.
Oh. Well, that was an abrupt one, wasn't it?
And did you notice the very first time ever the cliffhanger just then had the sting?
Mm. Oh yeah. Gosh,
Yes.
the meow.
Yeah. It wasn't
This
actually
is-
played over the ending, it kicks in with the credits, but that's the first time we see it. Or hear
So
it.
they really spiced things up with this one because they used the opening theme kind of twice,
Yeah, it's a very unusual choice, isn't it?
and then the sting. That's very interesting.
I think this is actually the only story in the entirety of Doctor Who history that ever does that.
Right.
So they are sort of just throwing things at the wall at the moment to see what sticks.
Yeah, I kind of like that. You
Yeah.
don't know until you don't try, until you try, do you?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, what do you think of that as a opener?
Yeah, I enjoyed the TV aspect of it, and you know, the fact that we're watching a TV show about a television broadcast of a
Yeah.
Mars probe, and there's a point where the guy's just talking to the camera, and you're like, is he breaking the fourth wall? And then you realise, oh, it's a TV presenter, and the Doctor's watching the TV while he works on the TARDIS console from that big lounge area. So that was nice. And I thought the space models were stunning, actually, because it's hard to pull off, but they did actually. I mean, the movement was a bit jerky, but they looked like they were actually quite big. Because one of the hard things with models is you've got to have almost the whole thing in focus, because if only part is in focus, it makes it look small. You can make
Right.
anything look small by having parts of the image out of focus, even like an image of skyscrapers, because that's the way really close objects look. You see only a tiny bit in focus. So that's the hard thing with doing those model shots, is you've got to try and get the whole thing in focus. But yeah, I thought it was well done. What about you?
Yeah, similar, really. I mean, I think the model work is definitely worth highlighting. Because when it's done well, I think it does work really well. And it reminds me a little bit of we've talked about this before, that sort of Thunderbirds-esque type thing, where if you, like you say, if you film it right, it can be very effective. So I think, that worked really well for me in this story. I really like the news reporter thing as well, and the way the news reporter actually sort of acts as a narrator-like figure. So it allowed us to sort of have quite a bit of exposition about this thing that has been built up to for sort of 7 months, but we don't really have to see any of that. We just can get it straight out there, and done in a way that, if you put it into the mouths of characters in the story, it might feel a bit contrived for them to drop all that info at once.
Yeah.
But in the mouth of a news reporter, it feels absolutely natural to have it delivered like that. So, and it's a nice quirky thing. I don't think we've had that done before in the series so far. Whereas, I think I said in the modern era, particularly in that first season, I think of Russell T Davies, or in the RTD era at least, RTD1, I should say. We often had Trinity Wells and newsreaders, no, not you too, Bob. In fear, Bob, not you too, Bob. So I think that worked well. I mean, as a youngster, I wasn't hugely keen on the console being outside of the TARDIS.
Right.
It just seemed a bit silly to me. But I was surprised by the kind of warmth I felt towards it, actually, having not really seen the TARDIS. I don't think we saw. I think actually the Silurians, it doesn't feature at all. And I think it's one of only about 11 or so stories in all of the show, even up to today, where the TARDIS doesn't feature in any way, shape, or form. So, and we didn't really see the TARDIS in Spearhead from Space. It was obviously there, but we don't go inside it. So this is the first time in a while we've seen the console. And I think as well, the fact that it's in, maybe it's like you said initially, like, is this the TARDIS?
That's a bizarre thing, isn't it? It's like you can put that console in any room.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, it's the TARDIS. It's really interesting.
And you could kind of see that space he was in working as a TARDIS with that slightly ornate stained glass window in the background, but yet it's also a kind of lab, but semi sort of living room kind of feel with some shelving as well. Like, it kind of works for me. I don't know why. I can understand why it wouldn't work for some people. I think as well, it's such a contrast. Just that piece of set is such a contrast to all the other sets we've seen so far. Like I said about in the Silurians, there's a lot of bland office flat wall type things, and in this we've got another control room that's quite generic looking and industrial, and suddenly then you've got this kind of slightly warm green walled stained glass windowed room, and you're like, this is very striking in comparison to what's set around it. So I quite like it. It's an odd kind of curiosity, but it is what it is, and it works for me. So
yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah,
great. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Do subscribe if you'd like to stay in the loop, and we will be back soon.
Bye bye.